Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time to get fired up because you and I, we're gonna be spending a whole lot of time with each other. That's right. The next 4 weeks, you and I are gonna go on a journey and we're gonna be working on one of the most important aspects of the golf swing that you cannot work on enough, your sequence. The sequence is the driving force of the golf swing. It's how we produce a lot of our speed. And a lot of you just don't have good sequence because you don't know what it is, or you use your smallest muscles like your hands and your arms to produce a bulk of your club head speed. Your hands and your arms do have function, but if you get your hands and arms to function inside of what your legs, your core, the main system of movement are doing in the golf swing, then you're gonna be way more productive over the long haul. Now, this 4-week video series is gonna require you to work very hard. It's not one of those videos that's gonna tell you that you watch this 5-minute or 10-minute video and you're gonna pick up 40 yards, or this one simple trick turned me into a professional golfer. It's absolutely not gonna happen. This is gonna require you to do a lot of work. And because you're gonna do this with me, I'm gonna sweeten the deal for you. This video series is gonna live free on the internet for you to be able to access anytime. Always go back and reflect to it. But I'm also gonna give you one free lesson, one free get out of jail card. If at any point you're going through any of these steps and you don't know what you're doing, you don't know if you're doing it right, or you just need a second pair of eyes on it to make sure that you're doing the things as I'm outlining. Because you always wanna have that sort of affirmation to know that you're ready to start taking on the next piece and the next piece. You're gonna leave this drill with all the nuts and bolts to what I call the LSU drill. That's what happens in week number 4. The LSU drill is not to be confused with Louisiana State University, go Tigers, shout out Smiley Kaufman. The LSU drill is a simple acronym for load, separate, and unload. Now, here's the rules of engagement. If you, at any point, you find yourself at one of these steps getting a little bit stuck, I'm gonna put some information in the description below. All you have to do is come over and sign up for a free membership. No, I'm not gonna spam you to death and send you all kinds of salesy emails. It's because we need to set up an account for you to be able to send videos in. You can send videos in of whatever you're working on in this drill at any point during any part of the program so that we can back check it, myself, Jace, or any other golf instructor. That's a pretty good deal, right? So if you really wanna get better at the game of golf and you're ready to start working hard and you're ready to make this off-season the most impactful off-season that you've ever had, then let's get to work. First off, you're gonna start to learn the load and the separation part of the golf swing. Now, every single day that you practice this stuff, you're gonna be asked to do 150 reps. I know it sounds like a lot, but the first 50 reps are actually pretty easy to get through. In fact, when I was testing it, the first set takes about 4 minutes, the second set takes about the same amount of time, but there is some downtime because you need to go back check these things on camera to make sure that you're doing them properly before you start getting into the 100 reps that are gonna be a little bit more on the hard work side. You get it? Now, a few things that you're gonna have to have. These are non-negotiables before you start to embark on this journey with me. The first thing is making sure that you have a camera and a tripod. Absolutely not negotiable with me. You have to have this. Why? Well, because I'm gonna be asking you to go back check the movements on camera to make sure that you're ready for step 2. If you don't have a tripod, then go onto Amazon. There are like 12 million of them. They're all falling apart after 2 or 3 uses. Or I have the Golf Pod one here that we sell in our store that's actually a whole lot more expensive, but it actually seems to be lasting pretty nicely, and it's pretty light and it goes in your golf bag. It also comes with a little fancy remote. It's not a sales pitch, just get a tripod. You have to have it. The second thing that you wanna have is about 40 minutes to an hour's worth of time in your day to be able to go through a very focused program. Now, as you start to get through week number 1, week number 2, you're gonna be able to go through the program a little bit faster. I've been able to go through each day in about 30 minutes on my side, but a lot of you aren't gonna be as proficient and a lot of you are gonna need to stay slow and stay focused. But you're also gonna wanna make sure that you have one other very important piece before you start going forward, is you need to make sure that you have a buttoned up setup position that's ready for you to start creating movement around. Meaning you have to have the proper stance width, the proper knee flex, and you have to be able to get yourself over the golf ball to where you can move. Why do I say that? Well, because golf, we're gonna be generating a lot of force in the swing, right? And a lot of you put yourself in a setup position that could potentially come back to hurt you. So if you don't have a good setup position or you don't know if your setup is good, then stop doing what you're doing and go down in the description below and watch the setup video before you start going through step number 1. The way that this drill is designed is it's kind of like an escalator. It's gonna start very slow, it's gonna feel a little bit mundane, but think about your first 50 reps that you're doing is kind of like your warm-up and getting connected to the movements at hand here. And we're gonna be working on what we call the lead side load drill here, where we're gonna use the lead hip and the lead shoulder to get the engine started properly. Now in the golf swing, we know that there are three main forces that we produce when it comes to swinging the golf club. We have horizontal, we've got rotational, and we've got vertical forces. What we're going to be working on is creating a good dynamic load situation into your trail leg. My right leg is a right-handed golfer. But we're going to also make sure that you understand some terminology as you go through this process. And it's going to have a lot of information in each one of these sort of checkpoints. But at the end of each step, I'm going to simplify the way that you think about it. And I'm going to show you what you should look for on camera to know that you're ready to move into step number 2. You got it? Okay, good. Now, I have things set up in a way down here that you can mirror at home. You don't have to set it up this way. But we are always going to be doing every one of these reps over the next 4 weeks with a golf ball down on the ground with our eyes looking at it. The first 2 weeks, actually the first 2 or 3 weeks, we're not hitting any golf balls or many golf balls at all. But we want to have our eyes looking down here because it's amazing how much things change when you're looking up in a mirror or looking in a camera to be able to create the movements. Yes, you can start out by having your eyes looking in a mirror, but most of your reps when you get to the big 100 that we're going to do at the end are going to be done with your eyes looking down here because you need to get connected to what your body is doing, and you also need to train a realistic situation. Now, from your setup position, I'm going to go ahead and take my golf club, and I want to make sure that I have the ball position off of my lead ear, and I've got it flipped upside down, and I'm going to be 50-50 at address. When you look at my setup position, you're going to see that I have about a 1-inch gap between my right thigh and the line that I've drawn up from the center of my ankle. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working to get our thigh moving against that line very early on, which is going to feel like a sway or a slide to you. But you're going to offset that with the lead side function. Now every single one of these reps that you're going to do today, you're going to maintain the connection between the top of your bicep and the top of the outer portion of your left pec. That connection right there is never going to be broken during any one of these reps for the next 7 days of your life. I don't want to see anybody lift their arm up high or drape their arm across their chest even when we're finishing the backswing. You get it? So from this position, we've got the club flipped upside down. I've taken my right hand and I've put it across my shoulders. What we're going to do to start this movement is we're going to allow our head and our thigh to move about 1 inch towards that load line, but at that same time, we're going to take our hip socket and our knee, and we're going to turn it down towards our trail side. Notice how my hip is now over where my ball position is. Notice how my knee is now working in that same direction. But notice that my right thigh is pushed up against that line, and you can see that my hips have started to rotate. If you do this properly, where you think about allowing your body to have some freedom of movement, and you're going to move over towards the load line and turn that left hip down, you've now just started the engine. I want you to pay close attention to what happens to my shoulders just by moving from my hips. You're going to notice that my lead shoulder starts to drop down, my trail shoulder starts to go up. We want the shoulders to rotate perpendicular to your spine. And so many of you get those first 2 or 3 feet of movement done the wrong way. You start moving a little bit flat, you start moving from your hands and your arms, and that in turn is going to force you to have some sort of compensation built into your downswing to offset that movement. Feed your brain the muscle tension signals in the correct order. But we're going to do 25 really focused reps, very, very slow. These are the slow, methodical ones that need to be very connected to in your brain. So let's go ahead and do a small set here, and then we're going to stop and back check them. So I've got my ball position in the correct spot. Okay, I've got my right arm across my chest. Okay, I'm going to start to move my head and my thigh towards the load line, and I'm going to turn my hip and my knee down. Nice and slow. Do I feel 70% underneath my right ankle? You betcha. Have I turned my hip and my shoulder, or I'm sorry, my hip and my knee down so that my shoulders have started to turn and my hand is now outside my trail thigh? You betcha. You should feel very relaxed in your lower half. You shouldn't feel frozen or stuck to the ground. We want freedom of movement because what you're going to remember is we start to add more speed to this and we start creating the separation, you're going to start to really slow the hips down very quickly as you start to near the top of the backswing. You get what I'm saying? Okay, good. Now, let's take a look at step number 2. Step number 2 is actually where we finish off the backswing. So you can basically see how I just worked you into a takeaway. I got the engine started. Step number 2 is where we start to pick up the pace a little bit, but we're gonna finish off our shoulder turn by turning from the correct area of the body. I don't want you turning from your shoulders. I want you turning from your guts, your rib cage here. I want you to feel like you're turning from your core as much as you possibly can. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start moving a little bit faster, but we're gonna try to turn our body and maintain that connection with our left arm and bicep, and we're gonna try to turn our guts as much as we can, but the focus point now is gonna be shifting to our right leg, remaining flexed through the rep. Now, to do this, you're gonna start to feel some different changes in what your right foot feels like, what your right leg and what your right glute feel like. A lot of you at home have not felt this sort of muscle engagement before. A lot of you are gonna probably feel pretty sore on day 2 or day 3. Why? Well, but think about that. If you go to the gym and you do a big day of chest or curls for the girls or whatever, then you're probably gonna be pretty sore, right? But if you find that you have discomfort in joints, like or you feel like your lower back is in pain, or your right hip or your right knee, then there's probably a good chance that you're not doing something right. Take your time, go slow. If you still feel any sort of nagging pain, then there might be an underlying issue. You might not have a good setup, or you just need us to look at it so that we can help you get past this so that you can work on the right things the right way. Okay, now here's what we're gonna do. Same scenario, we're gonna do 25 reps. Again, these are part of your warm-up just to get the engine started and to get that good sort of connection to the body movements. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and get our movement into the load line. So we're allowing the left hip and the left knee to turn as we're shifting. And I'm just gonna keep turning until I can't turn anymore and I'm gonna stop. Now what do you notice here? Well, you notice that I turned pretty close to 90 degrees, but my lead arm stopped at parallel to the ground. And I know a lot of you at home are like, here we go again. Chris is just teaching me another 9-3 swing, right? I'm not teaching you a 9-3 swing. Remember this, what happens to the hands and the arms during the takeaway and the backswing? Well, they elevate and they flex a little bit. You're gonna learn that that movement's still gonna exist when we start to change the direction of the golf swing in next week's video. So let's go ahead and take our setup. We're gonna knock out 25 very concentrated reps at a medium speed here, okay? So we're gonna allow our body to move into the load line, turn the left hip and left knee down, keep turning our rib cage, okay? Keeping that right leg flexed. Now the feels have changed a little bit. I now feel upwards of 80 to 90% of my weight now underneath my right ankle because my body's turned over on that side. I feel a whole lot more core engagement, and I certainly feel a lot of stretch up my glutes here and back in my hamstring and my quad a little bit as well. Okay, those are the muscles that you want to stay connected to for the entire session. Okay, so small shift. Okay. I leave the camera going for the 25 reps. Actually, I probably do 20 reps with it face on, and then I do the last 5 down the line. And I'll watch every one of those reps to make sure that they're perfect, because the final step in this process is where we start turning up the gas to about 75 to 80% speed with both hands on the golf club with it turned the right way. Step number 3, we're gonna take the golf club and we're gonna flip it over. And we're gonna do some reps now at 75 to 80% speed. We're gonna be staying connected to those same checkpoints, and we're gonna be working in sets of 10. 10 reps took me about 35 to 45 seconds. It may take you a little bit longer, but we're gonna be doing 10 sets of 10, and you wanna take maybe a little 30 to a minute break, 30-second break to a minute break in between these sets, get some water and get refocused and come back in. Do not try to do all 100 reps standing over the golf ball, okay? Give yourself some time. Now we've got ourselves a real load process in place here. We got something that we can build into. We have a lot of work to do this week. 1,000 reps is what I'm asking you to get done. It's about 150 reps a day. It will take you about 30 to 40 minutes to go through this protocol. But if you show up next week with the reps under your belt, then you're gonna be ready to start stringing together your backswing and your downswing. You're gonna start learning what it's like to start the downswing before the backswing is complete, which is pretty darn exciting, right? So many of you at home are getting lost in the abyss of the forums out there, like the recentering process. When am I supposed to go and how am I supposed to go? I'm gonna help simplify that whole process for you. That's right. Remember, I'm here to help you. If you have any questions or comments, post that below. If you need help, you need a second pair of eyes on it, come over to the website, let myself or let Jace take a look at it. We will make sure that you're doing these things correctly as you start to go forward in the process. We'll see you guys next week. Make it a great week.